Hi, welcome to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews, and I'm so glad you're here. If you're new to my channel, please take a minute and subscribe. I think that you're going to really like what you see and hear as I try to give you the heads up on movie making quality and content to help you make the best decision for you and your family as to whether or not you want to watch a particular movie and spend money doing that. So the movie I'm reviewing today is called Cinderella. This jukebox musical remake of the classic Cinderella story is now available exclusively on Amazon. It's rated PG and it's an hour and 53 minutes. That's kind of a long movie. And in some moments it kind of does feel long, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I really liked, things I definitely didn't like, and offer tips for parents, themes worth talking about with your friends and family if you watch it with them, and even offer some movie recommendations for other movies that I think you'll also really like, and maybe even more than this one. I have very mixed feelings about this movie, and in fact, I watched it twice just because I wanted to make sure my initial reaction is still my reaction, I guess, after watching it a second time. All right, but again, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let's dive in. In a nutshell, based on the movie poster, I was prepared to not like this new rendition of the legendary story because the actress who plays Cinderella looked super cocky, the pose that she has in the movie poster to be the lovely, sweet Cinderella. But as soon as the movie and the music started, I was intrigued and sold. I liked the feel of the movie when it started. However, my favorite version of the Cinderella story, I think, is the 2015 version with the wonderful Lily James. She was so lovely and perfect in that role and in that movie, giving the movie heart, class, and true Disney magic. This iteration of the story, however, has become extremely controversial because of the in-your-face wokeness. There are several things about the movie that people are hating on, and then other people are loving the movie. So the reviews and the ratings that I've been seeing are polarized. And so I'm going to just tell you what the content is and kind of my reaction, and then you can make up your own decision. So the synopsis is described by the studio as featuring an ambitious heroine who has big dreams. With the help of her fab godmother, she perseveres to make them come true. This new take on the classic story was both written and directed by the boundary-pushing Kay Cannon. One of my guilty pleasure film franchises is actually Pitch Perfect. I love those. I've watched all three of them way too many times, and she wrote all of those. So if you liked that franchise, I think that you'll kind of be prepared for the vibe that this movie has. This is actually Columbia Pictures' very first exclusive Amazon Studios film. So let's start off with the things that I really liked. First, Camila Cabello. I think she has a beautiful voice and did an excellent job in this role. However, I've read several reviews that just trashed her, didn't think she had talent, she couldn't act, she couldn't sing, and I was like, okay, you're just being harsh, because she has a lovely voice. And I thought that she was a breath of fresh air. And she even has some really good comedic chops. I thought she did a great job. She's a new Latina take on Cinderella. I'm totally fine with that. I thought that she was a lot of fun and beautiful too. I mean, I didn't even mention that. She's, really great, but a very different look and feel from the Lily James Cinderella. I like variety. I'm interested in new takes, so I was up for it. I really enjoyed her modern take on this epic figure in Disney film history. Now, this is not a Disney movie, I'm just saying. She made some controversial comments, however, many years ago that some critics are actually bringing up now and therefore trashing her, but I simply judged her performance in this piece, in this film, and I thought she did a really good job. The talented cast also includes 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, who plays the prince, the fantastic Idina Menzel, Pierce Brosnan, Minnie Driver, Billy Porter, and James Corden, among many other people. James Corden, by the way, helped to produce the film, yet he really only has a few scenes in the story. I thought he was cute. For some reason, there's a lot of hate flying his way, but I actually get a kick out of him. I think he's a lot of fun, and he adds a really cute, playful character to the movie. So take a look at Nicholas Galatzin's mouth, especially when he sings. Doesn't he kind of remind you of Freddie Mercury's mouth when he sings? I just kept seeing Freddie Mercury every time he was on set. I hadn't seen him before in anything else, so he was new to me. He doesn't have the strongest singing voice of the cast. He did a fine job, and I think the chemistry between him and Cinderella were fine. He was serviceable. I don't know who else I would have picked instead, but there you go. And then Minnie Driver, as I mentioned, is in the movie. And my big question is, when is she going to start aging? I thought she looked great. And we actually get to hear her sing even in the movie. And then speaking of singing, isn't every movie better when Idina Menzel sings in it? Yes. The answer is yes. She's not the strongest actress in the movie, but nobody can compete with her voice. I mean, I didn't even know she was in the movie. I didn't really know anything about it. And then when she showed up, I was like, what? Idina Menzel is in this? And I was super excited. I try not to, watch the movie trailer even before I do reviews, because I want to just watch the movie without any expectations. And so, of course, I was thrilled to see her in it. And her voice is stunning and by far the best in the movie. I mean, it's Idina Menzel. There's lots of humor, both spoken and visual. I laughed out loud many times, and I always enjoy that about movies, especially like in a movie musical, a fun spin on a classic drama. I don't know, the original Cinderella had some humor too, but anyway, the set designs are beautiful. They're just gorgeous. So I Googled, actually, after I watched the movie, where did they film this movie? Because it's not like just a fake set somebody built, or at least it sure doesn't look like it. It looked like they went inside a palace and to some other destinations, and I found out that they did. The majority of the film was actually shot in the famous Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire, England. Several scenes were also filmed in Waddesdon Manor and Lancashire in Blackpool. So several years ago, I actually got to visit the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Blenheim Palace, where I actually learned I have ancestors who lived there. And so I was super excited to go. I went with my twin sister, her family, and another couple that my husband and I had met from college, and my youngest son. And so we were so excited to, walk into our ancestors' homeland, or their palace, actually. And so in my excitement, I actually slipped and fell on one of the gravel pathways at the entrance, cutting a huge gash in my knee. So you could literally say that place is in my blood, and that I left my blood in my ancestral home. Anyway, I still have a big scar on my knee because of my time spent there, but it was so fun to look at that palace again. And I got to see all of the rooms and learn about Winston Churchill and his time spent there and all of that. Anyway, put it on your bucket list if that's in your ancestry as well. In fact, when I got there, I'm like, hey, I should tell everybody these are my ancestors, and maybe I'll get a special tour. I didn't. They would just go, yeah, you're a dumb American, whatever. Anyway, also the movie has tons of really fun dance numbers. There's a fun exuberance and energy anytime the whole cast gets out there and starts dancing. And I love movie musicals, so I was totally on board. And Billy Porter is fabulous. Although I know many people are going to really hate seeing the classic fairy godmother portrayed as he does. And so the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, I mean, nobody can deny he does a great job, but people are like, wait, is this a fairy godmother? Do we want this kind of fairy godmother? So again, I watched it a second time and confirmed he's great, but still wasn't sure if that's how far I wanted to go in portraying a fairy godmother. I don't know. That's maybe the tradition in me coming out. Then there's another guy whose name is Doc Brown, actually named after the character in Back to the Future. That's his real name. How awesome is that? But anyway, he plays the town crier, and he offers a real Hamilton-like vibe to the musical. Anytime he comes on and he starts singing and rapping, and again, the whole movie feels hip and current and not a traditional classic fairy tale from a long, long time ago, that kind of thing. This is also the very first time we see comedians James Acaster and Romesh Ranganathan in a movie. The costume design is also really great. And the one costume that Cinderella wears at the very beginning of the movie is the same one that Lily James wore in her 2015 Disney film, which is awesome, except for hers is a different color. The only time that I was really worried about a costume was actually when Cinderella wore her ball gown. It's beautiful, but I was a little worried that it was going to like fall off of her, and because there's a lot of skin that could be revealed in other things, if you know what I mean. So I just kept watching her like, I hope that doesn't fall off of her. Now, so overall, I just thought as far as a modern day twist, that was a lot of fun. However, there were some things I didn't like. And I recognize a lot of viewers who are complaining that they don't like being lectured to during an entire movie, and that this film feels more like a political agenda, advertising how woke they are. And it felt more like an agenda than entertainment. And I totally get that. And I had that reaction as well. Like, don't preach to me about how horrible I am as of a human being I am. For example, the princess is just all about a millennial agenda, about environmentalism and all the things that are wrong with the kingdom and all the changes that she thinks should be made. And, it's funny, but it was also a little bit annoying because it was, again, pushing why tradition is bad and wrong and how everything needs to be changed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Cinderella throws her glass slipper at someone and it lands on the ground and doesn't break. And there are a few other moments like that where I was like, oh, somebody should have checked that little detail. Another thing is the detail that there's a lot of auto-tune singing. And in some cases, it's really obvious because the voices don't match the audio. There's one moment where there's this really clunky transition and editing. And I was like, oh, whoa, what happened there? Did they forget that one little part? Or it caught my attention because I thought it wasn't very good. Speaking of the singing, some of the song choices I thought were spot on in terms of content and what was happening in the storyline and on the screen. But then a few of them felt like they were just odd choices. And I was like, okay, I guess. And then another part of the story is after I watched the movie, I was like, who's the villain in this story? Even the evil stepmother of the traditional classic Cinderella story isn't really evil in this movie. She's just not that nice sometimes. And the story really softens her personality and makes her just seem that she's misunderstood. She's had a hard life, but she has some very touching heart-to-heart talks with Cinderella where you're like, wow, she's not an evil stepmother at all. So then I thought, well, is it the king? Because he's asking his son to get married and, continue the royal tradition. And the movie plays that a little bit, that he's kind of the bad guy. His wife is mad at him. His son is mad at him. Even his daughter is mad at him, but he's not a truly evil villain. And so, to really compel with a story, there's got to be some contrasting, in a classic hero's journey, there needs to be some compelling force so that the hero has to conquer it. So again, who's the hero? Is it the prince? Of course, it's Cinderella, But again, she wasn't conquering an evil stepmother or evil stepsisters. They were just, actually, they were super entertaining. I really liked them. They weren't evil or even necessarily mean to her. So it just seemed like that element of the story was missing. And then really my biggest complaint too is whatever happened to a sense of duty and respect. The message in this movie feels like they're telling our young girls to just be self-centered. Cinderella claims, I choose me, and to ignore responsibilities, even, if you don't like the responsibility that's being asked of you. And I get it. All of these female empowerment movies are all about live your life, you be you. And I get that message. And I actually agree with that message. But when the messaging in this movie was more, I choose me over a sense of duty or responsibility, then I was like, oh, we got to be careful what we're teaching our young kids. And this movie is a family-friendly movie. There isn't any profanity other than, they take God's name in vain a few times. I'll give you some more tips for parents. So I was just wondering, what are they really trying to tell us? Some of the other themes are love, and they're contradictory, or that message is contradictory. For example, she chooses herself over loving the prince. And I don't want to give you any big spoilers, but then there are other moments where she sings, it's all about love, and love is the most important thing. And so again, I was like, what are you trying to tell our kids here? Pick a side. I don't know. It just felt like the messaging was unclear. I guess that's all I'm saying. All right, let me give you some quick tips for parents. First of all, this is the first time that we see the fairy godmother as non-binary and as a butterfly too. So some people will think, oh, that's so forward thinking and progressive, and other people might be offended by that. I'm just saying, giving you the heads up. It's your decision if you decide that that's right or wrong or good or bad or whatever. Just wanted to give you a heads up on the content. There's a conversation about a mouse who becomes a man, one of the footmen for Cinderella, and how he pees through his front tail. And it's supposed to be super funny. And I was like, ooh, cringe, not funny. Let's delete that line. There's no profanity, as I mentioned. And then just, again, a heads up on some of the progressive messaging. And you may think it totally is your values. And so you'll be totally comfortable sharing the movie with your kids. And I've read reviews where families absolutely loved the movie. So again, just trying to give you the heads up. Let me give you some themes that are worth talking about: female empowerment and feminism, belief in yourself, chasing your dreams, the audacity to want more. And that's a phrase that someone actually says in the movie. And I thought that's really interesting. And I liked that phrasing. Love, as I mentioned, expectations, duty, and responsibility. So I always write down funny lines and interesting lines, and I include them all in my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So you can go there and check those out. I'll share just a few of them with you right now. So Pierce Brosnan plays the king, and he's talking to his son, and he's like, we should have a ball. And his son is like, no, I'm a horrible dancer. It looks terrible. It's awful. And Pierce Brosnan says, no, if a rich man ever lost a woman, it was to a man who could dance. And I just thought that was funny because he wanted to have this ball. And then Cinderella is talking to the fairy godmother, who's played by Billy Porter. And the fairy godmother is saying, oh, let's do this thing. And she's like, no, we can't do it for all of these various reasons. And he's like, okay, let's not ruin this incredibly magical moment with reason. I don't know why, it just made me laugh. And then Cinderella gets these glass slippers from the fairy godmother, and they're extremely uncomfortable. And she's like, you can't do something about these? I mean, you've got magic. And then the fairy godmother says, women's shoes are as they are. Magic has its limits. And I thought that was really funny. And then here is sort of the big line spoken by Cinderella, played by Camila Cabello. And this is the big theme of the whole movie, really. One of the ugly stepsisters says, and they're not ugly, but one of them says, oh, do you think I'm pretty? And she's looking in the mirror before they're getting ready to leave. And so Cinderella says, who cares what I think? Who cares what anyone thinks? What matters is what you think when you look in the mirror. And I thought that was a powerful lesson to teach these young girls. Don't look at the celebrities and the influencers. Do your best to present yourself well. And if you think you look beautiful, then you'll feel beautiful, and that will make you even more beautiful. So I thought that that was powerful, especially for young girls who might watch this movie. Okay, and there are many more lines, some really good ones. So check out my website where I've got all of those written down. So you might be wondering, well, how did you grade this movie, or if there were some things you really loved and things you didn't like? And ultimately, I'm giving it a B. I think if you know the content going in and you're fine with all of that, you're absolutely going to get a kick out of it. But if you're just a little bit hesitant, now you know some of the content. But wait, before we go, let me give you 2 recommendations for other movies that I think that you'll really enjoy. So this Cinderella is a beautiful, talented Latina. And I've got another movie musical you absolutely should watch, especially if you are Latina. And that is the fun musical called In the Heights. I've seen that several times now. Great music, wonderful story. In fact, I did a movie review, so you can check that out and see what I had to say about it. But I really enjoyed that. And then the other recommendation is the 2015 Cinderella story with Lily James. I just loved that version. All right, that's it for my review. I know I got pretty long-winded because I got kind of passionate about it. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like my video if you did, and tell all your friends, come on over here and join us as I try to grow my channel. I really appreciate your support. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.